wouldn't think I'd be so nervous. I've been on stage all morning, but I'm very nervous. You'd think I would have got used to it by now. Thank you for coming along today to listen to my findings from my Nuffield journey that has really changed my life. It has left me questioning my current paradigms on agriculture and from my past learnings, and what is actually right and what is not so right now that I have understood the highly intelligent world beneath my feet, the soil. What I'm going to say today might be challenging to some of you, but remember, I've had a whole year to contemplate and process my new learnings that I've seen. Firstly, I'd like to express my gratitude and thank you. Thank you to Nuffield for seeing the potential in me to undertake this journey. It has been an absolutely amazing discovery across the world for me, and created a lot of growth in me personally and professionally. I would like to thank my investors, which is the Bruce Wald Trust, Tasmanian Alkaloids, Robert Gatenby Memorial Trust, and Blundstone, who's been with me every step of the way, taking me to every corner of the world, from paddock to stage. I'd like to thank my support network that has given me so much support, care, belief, and put up with all the tears in this extremely challenging time for me, and put up with also all that endless chatter as I sift through all my new learnings and try to make sense of everything that I've seen. And just a quick mention to my dad, who's had the task of looking after my mischievous Jack Russell, who has already done her disappearing act already on this trip. And to my Global Focus Program group, the Chili Champs, thanks for a great trip. And to all the soil carers of the world who so generously opened their homes and their doors to host me and share their passion for farming with soil, farming with soil in mind. And lastly, but not leastly, I'd like to thank my employers, Botanical Resources, and my work colleagues who have allowed me to have extended periods of time away from pyrethrum production. I'm a production agronomist with Botanical Resources Australia on the northwest coast of Tasmania. Pyrethrum is grown in intensive cropping rotation on rich red ferrosol soils. This rotation has a heavy reliance on synthetic inputs. And although we have this heavy reliance, the number of chemicals that we have available to us is actually reducing through resistance and chemicals being taken off the shelf due to human and environmental concerns. We also have the added challenge of having high soil cultivation to prepare our seed beds in a way that our current drills can cope with. This is leading to rapid amounts of soil degradation and erosion. Our topsoil is leaving our land with every rain event, taking our valuable organic matter, the nutrition that's been applied, and all those top dollar that is being paid for our land. This issue of soil being degraded and lost from our land is not unique to Tasmania. It is a worldwide issue. This statue in Iowa just shows you that in 1850 we had 16.5 inches of soil below the prairies. Now in the year 2000 we actually only have 5.5 inches. All of these challenges led me to my Nuffield topic, which was investigating how the principles of soil health and regenerative agriculture could be brought into our intensive cropping system that requires high levels of tillage to improve the health of the soil and to reduce synthetic inputs. So I undertook I left thinking I was going to find all the answers. I started through England and I was investigating all the tools, the cover crops, everything that was involved in improving the health of the soil. It was halfway through France that I actually realised that absolutely none of this matters until I and us get an understanding of how alive the soil, and we need to be treating it as a living entity so it can support us. I continued on my travels rather dejected, travelling through Belgium and Netherlands and the rest of France, but rather inspired by the innovation and out-of-the-box thinking. It was then onto Colorado, Saskatchewan, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska and Iowa, where I had the truly humbling experience of understanding and observing nature, and how if we actually farm with nature, the soil and everything can support us. It is here that I swallowed that pill, and I can never look at soil again. And we are crazy if we can farm against nature and win. This change in thinking, we need to move away from that modern agricultural thinking of straight lines, monoculture and simplicity, and embrace the complexity of nature and incorporate polyculture's complexity and what we term mess. The 5 principles of healthy soil underpinning regenerative agriculture are keep the soil covered, reduce the disturbance to the soil, and that's through chemical inputs and tillage to keep our biology alive. We need to have a high level of diversity to create high resilience in that ecosystem. We need to keep a living root all year round so that we ensure that that carbon, which is the fuel of the soil ecosystem, is pumped into the soil. And this carbon is traded for plant minerals, vitamins, plant growth regulators, water, and anything that is required for to produce a productive plant, in return for more carbon back into the soil. And then integration of livestock, which is a dirty word for us croppers. We don't want animals anywhere near our red soil. But soil has actually evolved with animals, and soil needs that munching and that mulching of plant material to go across to kickstart the ecosystem. And what I've seen around the world is maybe we need to rethink our thoughts on livestock and start bringing it into our rotation. You asked the question, do these soil principles actually work? The most striking evidence to me was in a poor area of France where the soil was basically like white beach sand, and this farmer had been able to turn it into a soil full of organic matter that was producing highly productive crops. The implementation of these 5 universal principles and what you would call the tools was wide and varied and very much dependent on the system that you were working in, or what farm, because everything is actually unique. I came to the realisation that maybe this idea of soil health is maybe not the underpinning idea of why we are actually all these farmers were able to reduce their synthetic inputs. This change on thinking of soil really changed the way that the farm was being managed, and people were questioning whether that they should be applying their synthetics and had actually reduced them, so forth, moving around to improving the health of soil, which then led to more reductions in synthetics because you were able to produce synthetic plants. And it left me, it really was, is it a chicken or the egg question? Is it soil health first, or is it reducing synthetic inputs? The implementation of these, of the principles to reduce synthetic inputs was, there was lots of strategies used. So is it actually, do you need to use synthetics, or is it a strategy that you could use? Cover crops or companion planting was used to reduce herbicide application, but it is still widely used on all of the farms that I visited. Fungicides and insecticides were the area that reductions had greatly been reduced, mainly because these are used in a preventative way. Sunflowers were planted with buckwheat to reduce the to reduce your weed burden, and had the added benefit of increasing the establishment of sunflowers because the birds actually could not see the sunflowers. This was also done in a canola crop. Canolas in France and England, canola is planted with companion planting, and this resulted in really good establishments of canola, which is notoriously hard to establish. It also had the added benefit of reducing insecticides. So a canola crop planted with companions had 0 insecticides versus a conventional crop which had 7. Brendan Rocky in Colorado has managed to eliminate fungicides and insecticides from his system through improving the health of his soil. He has taken out his 2 years of barley rotation and introduced diverse cover crops. And he is grazing them with agisted cattle. He's also added diversity into the system by planting chickling vetch, peas and faba beans with his potatoes to add nitrogen to that crop, as well as provide an island for those beneficial insects to move out into the crop. Another striking thing that for me, while I was travelling around the world, is the health of organically grown crops. I honestly, with my conventionally trained mind, thought that those farmers were not telling me the truth. A crop could not look that healthy without fungicide application. And then this leads me back to that question of chicken and the egg. Is it actually that because synthetics aren't applied, that soil is healthier and can produce a healthier plant that does not require those inputs? And it was David Blundstone in England that said to me, I had a headache once, so now I take a headache pill every day. And this is probably what we are doing with our preventative fungicide and insecticide program we were using. And we all know when we take painkillers every day, we actually have to up the rate and the dosage to actually get any effect. Despite adding in these principles into a vegetable rotation being very challenging, it actually is possible. When you have that change in thinking on how you think about the soil, everything changes, and your desire is heightened to actually change the methods that are degrading your soil. Barfoot's in the UK, large vegetable growers with farms all around the world, has been able to introduce controlled traffic, cover cropping, and the use of the biodigestates from their biodigester into their system, improving the health of their soil and also improving the shelf life of their produce. G's in the UK as well, large vegetable growers, a family-owned business, has made the decision through ever-increasing disease issues, changing consumer demand, and that desire for their grandchildren to be farming long into the future, to change their farm to regenerative agriculture, and have appointed a Regen Ag officer, along with training all of their staff in the living soil and nutritional farming. Through the introduction of cover crops, sheep, composting, and most importantly crop monitoring, they've been able to reduce their inputs on their potato crops by 50%. So this just shows you that absolutely, if there's a will, there is a way, and we can actually bring some ways into our intensive cropping system to improve the health of our soil and actually reduce our synthetic inputs. Moving forward in this new frontier of soil and how we're going to actually integrate it into our cropping system is we need to create a place for continual learning to reflect and bring out to the farming community through how just alive the soil is, that has been discovered through new scientific discoveries and through farmer observations, as this movement is largely led by farmers. In a system that is still highly reliant on tillage, I see that compost is a way that we can bring organic matter back into our system and biology. I see, and then also controlled traffic was getting great results around the world. Although it's been visited in Tasmania, I think it's something we need to look back into, because there was rapid improvements in the soil through using controlled traffic. The investigation and investment into strip till and direct drills needs to happen so that farmers can bring in that cover crop and keep their soil covered all year round, as well as having that living root pumping carbon into that soil ecosystem. And through having the disc drills, why cover crops are not incorporated generally into our rotation is because we have a great level of biomass that cannot be dealt with in spring when the soil is really wet. By having disc drills, we'll be able to drill straight into that biomass. In all of this process, it's really important that we take this in incremental change so that we remain financially viable. Further research needs to be done into the economics of regenerative agriculture, and most importantly, we just need to get brave and have a try, because it's amazing what you will achieve. So in this new frontier, as we move forward, it is really important that we're actually kind to ourselves, because it is tough out there on the beaten track against the flow of modern agriculture. And in this new science of soil, we need to remember, don't forget what your eyes and ears are hearing. And even if you don't understand and want to dismiss it, because, you know, we're never going to understand potentially the complex interactions that are happening in the soil. And just be prepared that moving in this new paradigm of farming with your soil in mind, that your life is going to be turned upside down, just as Nuffield has changed my life and turned it upside down. Thank you.